Hello, folks. Welcome to the Madhouse. Welcome to 2020. Yes, about 6 days late on that one, but yeah, welcome to episode 2 of the Madhouse. And on this one, like I said it before, I know it's been a long time since the last one, but this time I'm gonna have an interview I did on of a guy that I'd had to do a profile on. Well, I didn't have to do him, but I had this assignment where I had to profile this one person. Could be anyone on earth besides a family member or a friend, and just write a profile on them for English class. I record the interview because I'm not about to sit there and write everything down that he said. So I record it so I can write the essay on it, but I have the recording of it, and I think it's interesting enough for maybe other people want to listen to it. So that's going to be the second episode of the Madhouse today. Before we get to that, I do want to talk about, I was going to make this a separate video, but I'm not going to now. Like 2020 outlook, what was the plans, how we're going to get there, what's the goals and all that. For me personally, on this channel and outside this channel, like academically and stuff. So, I don't know, I might spend like 10 minutes on this and then we'll head on to the interview. But, oh yeah, one thing about the interview though, I record on my phone. It's perfectly, listenable in my opinion. But the quality will be a stark difference and a stark contrast to obviously this right here, because I'm recording on a pretty good microphone, opposed to my phone microphone that has been damaged by having my phone in the shower. Don't judge me. Anyways, talking about 2020 outlook, what videos will I be trying to make? And I'm not going to talk about the whole of 2020 because I can't see that far ahead. I can't predict that far ahead. When you're a student, I think it's just smart to just worry about the next 6 months, whatever the semester is. Obviously having some vision of what's going to come down the line, but don't have that detailed plans of what's happening after this semester because you don't know. That's not guaranteed, or at least for me it's not. So I'm only planning to about, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk about just up to like the end of March and April. So what the videos I'm trying to make in January, it's going to be pretty mundane. Well, not mundane. This is going to be pretty light, I guess. I'm only planning on making 13 videos, and working on the Madhouse and working on the returning of the UWL, the Universal Wrestling League, in 2K19. I haven't bought 2K20. Didn't really see a reason why. If they had whenever they add the script matches feature, like you script it move by move, I would buy that. I'd pre-order that. I would spend all the money on that because that'd be awesome for me, honestly. But yeah, I'm going to have 5 episodes of the Madhouse and 8 of UWL. You're going to have on the 5th, on the 14th through the 17th, 4 episodes in 1 week, kind of like UWL return week. And from then on, it will be 2 episodes a week, Tuesday and Fridays will be UWL. And every month, we'll have one special event, but pretty standard wrestling fare. And Madhouse will come out every Monday, every week. But I'm also introducing a bonus episode. If you go on my Patreon, support my Patreon, give $1, you get one extra episode a month. It will be like an unlisted YouTube video, and after on the 30th will be the bonus episodes release. Episode 6 will be the bonus episode. And then on on January 30th, that will be the bonus episodes release. And that'll be an unlisted video only to Patreon people. Obviously, if you get the unlisted link to other people, you're a dick. But it's for Patreon subscribers. Just give me $1, and you get the unlisted link. So then the next bonus episode will be on February 27th. So when February's bonus episode goes up, January's bonus episode will be for everyone. It will have a public release. So yeah, so you have basically like a month access to that, exclusive access to that episode, just for $1. You can obviously give more. There's higher tiers, but there's nothing I can really give you right now. Nothing I can really think of that wouldn't be just completely contrived. But having that bonus episode is a natural progression of what I'm already doing anyways. So yeah, I don't feel that I'm going out of my way necessarily, like spending a bunch of time to make something new just for this subscription thing that nobody might even subscribe to. But since I'm doing the podcast anyway, I might as well make another extra hour-long episode. So, anyways, so that's pretty much January, and that's probably gonna give me enough time to, work on school stuff, and have a little extra time to work on like preparing for the next series. I'm preparing for this review that I'm trying to make that I've really been wanting to do for a long time. February, I have still the UWL stuff, still the Madhouse stuff, but I'm adding the reviews. 3 reviews will be uploaded in February. February 1st, Sonic Generations, and 2 weeks later, Pokemon Red and Blue, and 2 weeks after that would be Sonic the Hedgehog 1. And this is kind of like every month I want to introduce like a new staple that I want on the channel going forward. So I want reviews every 2 weeks, and I have most of the Sonic Generations review done, most of the Red and Blue review written. Sonic 1 shouldn't take that long to write, but I have more than enough time to get all this stuff done. And being in my new place, it gives me freedom to record this at any time of the day, so that shouldn't be a problem. It was a problem living in that dorm, and it's kind of still a problem living here. But yeah, in a couple of days I'm moving into my new place, and I'll be all alone on myself. So in March, we're gonna have the same thing, and we're adding an addition. Will be the Pokemon Gold and Silver walkthrough. I had to push this back a couple months because logistically I just couldn't start it this time and do what I want to do with it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in March. And from there onwards, I really can't give you any hard dates on any hard plans, anything past March. I don't think it's responsible for me to think that far in advance. I don't really have the luxury of knowing how things are going to be then. But that's just talking about stuff on YouTube, of course. There's, of course, goals I have outside of YouTube that I want to accomplish. And off this channel, I'm thinking of, I think I talked about this, I don't know if I talked about this before, but founding like since I'm at UNO now, and there's not really like a political organization to itself. There's like diversity education, I forgot what it's called, but some like thing talking about multiculturalism group, and there's like a black culture club type thing, which does do like community outreach stuff, which is important. But there's not like a political like Young Democrats, Young Republicans type thing at UNO. And since I do not subscribe to either of those parties, and I still want to do something political, I was thinking about founding a People's Party type club, for like people who are interested in learning more about left populism, be it socialism, communism, anarchism, whatever your stripe is. And even if you're like just interested in politics in general, it's not meant to be like this exclusive group. It's about doing things that we objectively, as like college students, can all kind of agree on. We want more people voting. We want more people being educated on current issues, but also on history and what this current situation places itself in history, stuff like that. So that's one of the big things I want to do this semester. I don't know how I'm gonna, I don't have a social media presence. I don't have really good channels of relationships to really for it to naturally get a friend and tell a friend, join the UNO's People's Party. I'm not particularly popular at the school or anything, so I think it's basically going to be putting flyers up, asking teachers that I had to kind of talk about it if they're interested, and I'm take that avenue. Not necessarily. I don't think you would call that grassroots, but hopefully that'll work out. It's my goal, man. If I have like 5 to 10 people on this, that would be a success for this semester. And every semester going, since we've proven ourselves that we will be an effective organization and, obviously grow like that. I do plan on being here for the next 2.5 years, so I do have enough time to kind of grow that and see what I could do from there. So that's kind of one of my things off the channel goals, that in terms of academic / professional, I guess, some politics. I really want to be more of an activist, not necessarily a public one. I don't know. I don't need to be famous like D-Ray, but I do want to have an effect, a positive effect, instead of being a net neutral or even a net negative on my environment. But so yeah, I think that's kind of all I have. Some light stuff. I might talk more about these different things as stuff progresses, as we talk about, have more guests on the show. Some of these things will naturally just come up. But these are the basic outlines and goals that I have. I want to talk about more and more goals though. Or one thing that would be a goal is talking about subscribers and viewership. I just hope it increases by a lot. I don't have a hard number in mind. I don't have a hard number for really anything. I just want to grow and get the content be better, obviously. So as long as I do that, satisfied. I don't really have any pie in the sky goals besides outside the 3-month plan I have in the people's parties, of course. As long as I do fine in school, keep everything on track, should be okay. 2020 is all about reclaiming for me, getting everything, all my ducks in a row, getting back on track. Not only on this channel, but personal life and academically as well, because I'm not doing too well, I would say. But enough about that. I told you what's coming up. Expect next week, UWL, and go on my Patreon to get that bonus episode. It should be up, and not the bonus episode, but the tier should be up by the time this is uploaded. So if it's not, go back if you're interested. Look back every once in a while, see it till it is up. But thank you so much for listening to this part, and on to the interview of my mother's coworker, Will. Interesting enough guy. Hopefully you enjoy it despite the lesser audio quality. Thank you.
It's just a little drama. It's a little something unique. I think it's the whole point of it is to use social media as an actual television platform. Basically, that's the intent. What we find is a lot of people live on their phones, basically, whether it's television they're watching, music they're listening to, things they write down like notes. So television isn't going anywhere. A lot of the cable companies, a lot of the major networks are going into online streaming. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out if we could find a niche to kind of capture early on. Mm-hmm. Something like maybe Twitter, or maybe like a Facebook series, and see if we could launch it to something bigger, like on a Hulu or Netflix. Mm-hmm. That's the intention.
And y'all pitching it to
I don't want to pitch anything just yet. We have a director in mind, and my friend here has some agents in mind. I don't want to pitch anything as of yet because it's not an ironed out idea, if that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I found about film, media, and television, just like you're doing now, a lot of executives, they want the ideas, but they need something. They want 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes. You know what I'm saying? They want something to kind of work from. They want you to basically give them a template, and then they run with it as soon as you hand it off. Typically, what I find is a lot of executives, that's the word I'll use, they want, if you're a new writer, a new producer, if you have any new material, they want to purchase it outright, basically. Mm-hmm. They want to purchase it, and they either want to hire you on as a consultant, or they want to hire you as a writer, but they never want to pay royalties or anything to a new prospect, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to college for screenwriting?
I went to college. I went to NC State. I initially started in psychology. I wanted to be a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, psychiatrist. I was thinking about medical school and everything. The first semester, which is weird, I still can't figure it out to this day. I made all A's in psychology, but I was really bored and I stopped going to class. And I almost failed out my second semester. So I went to speak to, a career counselor, academic counselor, and they said, what were you interested in? I told them the stuff I like to do. One of the weirdest things about me that you might be able to string into a good narrative, I have chronic insomnia. I was in the military, still with some PSTD stuff, but I deal with chronic insomnia. So I actually talk myself to sleep. I don't necessarily like taking medication. So I will think about a project I'm working on, and I would just kind of talk myself through it until I fall asleep. And typically what I find is in the morning, if I don't have that exact idea on mind, I have something just as good or better that I can add. So that's kind of my sleeping medication. That's my Ambien, if you can say. But it's something that I've always enjoyed. I learned how to tie my shoes using alphabet shoestrings, like words, letters. It's always been something important to me. I've always been extremely cautious about how I speak, the words I articulate, the words I use, basically knowing what the definitions are, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very, when I say something, I'm not asking people to take it, I don't want you to take it necessarily personally, but I want you to take it serious. And in most cases, I want you to take it verbatim. That's why I use a lot of the words I use, and I speak in the manner in which I speak. Mm-hmm. And that's where writing was a transition for me, because, like I said, I dealt with my PTSD. So what I will find in my writing, I can, just like any artist would do to like a paint, I would transpose certain characters or certain emotions through certain characters. So you might have a woman who I might have written about who was beaten, or who was, I guess, despondent to a certain situation. In a lot of ways, a lot of that characters, the situation may not be me, but a lot of those characters' emotions are me, or experiences I've shared with other people. And I think that's one of my biggest influences, and maybe one of my biggest gifts when it comes to writing. I have a sense of empathy that I can feel pain, you know what I'm saying? And it really helps when you write. It helps when you're doing anything artistic, even on this platform, in this medium, because a lot of times you'll interview somebody and we'll have a good conversation, a good dialogue, and something can be misconstrued. Any small word, any compilation of words can be confused, and they can be just taken whatever direction that the person has taken them, wants to take them, or the person who isn't taking them anywhere doesn't want them to go. Mm-hmm. So what I found is, even if I don't know exactly what the person is trying to say, I have a level of discernment and a level of personal conviction to speak to that person, or if something doesn't even seem correct, say, hold on, let's back up. Did you really mean this when you said this? Or when you experience this, like I might ask people questions like, attractive woman, when you get hit on, how do you feel? I might be asking that because I'm in the middle of writing and I'm trying to figure out from a male perspective, how is this woman accepting all of these advances from men, like men, you know what I'm saying? Different suitors like that. So I think that's been one of my greatest abilities. And it kind of even spills into the idea of psychology for me too, because really a lot of psychologists, they listen to people talk, they write down, take notes, analyze, and then they basically come up with treatments or ideas to move forward. And I think that's a good tool for writing, music, art. It's all the same. I think when you get to a point where you can freely bleed out on whatever medium you're working on or working with, it gives you a chance to be honest with yourself. And when you're honest with yourself, the sky's the limit. And I'm learning too, especially with my writing, everything that I put on paper, no matter where I get the idea from, or no matter where I might have heard a phrase or a statement from, it's all a part of me. You know what I'm saying? I remembered what somebody said when I wrote it down because it made me feel a certain way. Whether it was funny, whether it was sad. Give you a prime example. Last night I went to get something to drink from the gas station by my house. Okay? Are you a film buff?
Kind of.
Have you ever seen the movie Kids?
Kids, no.
If you ever get a chance, check it out. There was a kid, he couldn't be more than 9 or 10 years old. Kid was high as a kite. Smelling just like weed. I kid you not. And look, I have my own preferences when it comes to illegal or illicit substances, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But to see a kid that young, stoned out of his mind in public by himself, it broke my heart. And it's something I've been kind of pondering within like the last 15 hours. How can I transpose that, to paper and expound on it? Because I think for me, sitting here for you like to do this. This is an honor for me because I'm sharing a moment with someone you're taking your time out, your personal time to share something you love with. Even though you're interviewing me, you're sharing your time with me. Mm-hmm. So I take it personal. And what I do with my writing, even whatever kind of work I do, especially young black men, young black people in general, I try and leave messages. I try and leave little traces of the pain I experienced and the little traces of knowledge that I feel like I've acquired and wisdom that I've gained. I can't sit down in an hour, 2 hours, a month and give you all the information I have. 2 reasons. I'm not going to remember it all. We don't have that kind of time. And I don't even know if you're going to understand all of it. I don't know what's applicable to you and what isn't. But at the same time, as long as you're willing to leave something behind for someone to discover, eventually your message, your story, it will be relayed. Time is an infinite thing, but one thing about time and history, it repeats itself. We're looking at everybody's talking about social media and gun violence in school. I know I'm taking you everywhere. Social media and gun violence in school. Well, the only difference is we have all of these tools and platforms to notify us when things happen. There were times when you had, prime example, how familiar with the history of New Orleans?
Not very, actually.
The Garden District. Do you know why it's called the Garden District?
No.
That's where all the plantations were. Mm-hmm. That's actually why it's considered the Garden District. People think it's that because the nice big houses and, the nice greenery that you have. But it was the Garden District because of that. Those were plantations. That's a part of New Orleans history that a lot of people don't know. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the fleur-de-lis. That's a staple of New Orleans. A lot of people don't know. That's how they branded slaves. The slaves that were sold and embarked right by Harris, because they traded the slaves right where Harris is. And they would come up that canal, where Canal Street is. The boats would park on the river. They would get pirogues and canoes and bring the sail cargo to that point, and they would sell them inside that building. Well, every slave that would remain within the confines of the parish was branded with that fleur-de-lis. And that's something a lot of people are not too familiar with. So, and that's why I say when I learn stuff, I like to incorporate it in things I do because it may not be relevant to you today. It's relevant to me at all points because I'm cycling in my head. It may not be relevant to you, but at some point, and I just feel like just the way America is, the way society is, it will be relative or relevant to you at some point. And it could be relevant to your kids, your nieces, your nephews, cousins, whoever. I always feel like I've had enough experiences, enough trauma, and enough joy that I can leave somebody a piece or a shred of hope somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, you listen to hip hop?
Yeah.
You listen to Nipsey Hussle?
Yeah, I used to.
So he has rest in peace. He has a song, and in the song he says, I'm a genius, but there was no platform left to explain it to me. You know what I'm saying? Writing, film, music, these things have been around for years. Mm-hmm. We as a culture, we are just starting to realistically take a hold of it and define it for what it means to us. Mm-hmm. And in all honesty, this is something we've been doing it. But now we're actually sitting down and we're telling stories from our viewpoint. I'm not the biggest Tyler Perry fan, but I respect the fact that he's telling a story from a viewpoint that I can recognize and understand. Mm-hmm. I see my grandmother in M.A.D in a lot of ways. You know, she's hard charging, she's honest, she takes no BS, she's had her life experiences. You know what I'm saying? I can respect that. I might not like every line, I might not like every character, but I can relate. See what I'm saying? As of one time, the only thing we could relate to in society were the films like Scarface and Cooley High, where the film would end in some kind of despair. You know what I'm saying? Until recently, we had very few happy endings when it came to art and cinema and things like that. And I think that's what I'm pushing towards. I wanna create an environment where, as a culture, we can bleed out onto a canvas and be who we are and be accepted for what we are. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like a whole lot of black power stuff, but it's more or less. I was raised by a single mother. My mother made every sacrifice she could possibly make to send me to the best schools possible, to make sure I was in a safe neighborhood, to make sure that I understood life from a black man's standpoint the best way, you know, she could show me or provide for me in that sense. And I have no angst to my father. We actually have a pretty good relationship at this point, but it's one of those things where I look at society. Society is taking a stance where we need to protect women, and it's true. But society isn't focusing on black women like they should. And at the same time, society, I even cut that. For me, it's about presenting myself as a model man in my skin as I am, so other people that come behind me can see that. Because the platform, the good men that look like me that I was around, they were in the street, you know what I'm saying? They were doing a lot of illegal stuff. But the thing that saved me was the fact that they did what they did to survive. And the recognition that, they saw intelligence in me and they saw talent, and they refused to let me go so far down the rabbit hole that I couldn't return. And I'm not gonna be able to touch everybody individually. But I figure if I can put something out there and it can be received by the masses, and somebody can recognize, wow, somebody like me did this, then I feel like, you know, I could, some kind of joy, you know, some kind of happiness, some kind of platform, something will trickle down, you know what I'm saying? Let somebody else know, you know, he didn't have success like I want, or he wasn't as big as Steven Spielberg, but hell, he stepped out and he did it. And the fact that he did it, I know I can do it. And even with and I'm big on mistakes I made. I want to put that out there, because if I'm hiding my mistakes and I'm trying to pass on information, that's just leaving traps for you to run into. You know what I'm saying? I got to tell you the good and the bad. And I don't know, I feel like I'm on some kind of weird mission now in my life. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any kids. I've been in the military. I've traveled. I've been married. I've been divorced. I have lived a pretty full life for a 35-year-old. You know what I'm saying? And I'm starting to see a lot of people that look like me that remind me of myself when I was at those young adolescent ages. And I don't want them to feel alone like I felt. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for my core group of friends and I had a solid family, I would have never embraced the fact that I was a writer, or I enjoyed reading, or I spoke a certain way. You know what I'm saying? You're from New Orleans, you want people to say, babe, it doesn't. No, I articulate. You know what I'm saying? I got a degree in English. You know what I'm saying? I have a minor in film, major in English, minor in finance. My concentration was romance literature and screenwriting. You know what I'm saying? So just imagine being a 24-year-old black kid, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, walking to class with your Jabot jeans and your t-shirt, your Jordans on. You're sitting in this room full of kids that look completely different from you. They look like each other. They respond to each other. A lot of them know each other. You look completely different, and all of these ideas start falling out of your head, and everybody's holding on to them like, wow, wow, wow. And it hit me, like, I had this talent, I had the skill, but until I branched out, I didn't know how valuable it was and how good I actually was. And I think, you know, people talk about HBCUs. I love them. I think they're extremely important. But for me, I went to North Carolina State. That is one of the most traditional white universities in America, from top, from tip to tail, basically. I needed that. I needed that experience. I needed to see what the world was like. You know what I'm saying? I didn't need somebody to coddle me and say, okay, because you look like this. No, I needed to be thrown into that dog eats dog world so I can know when, how, and in which way I needed to protect myself, because I was built that way. I feel I was built that way. And me knowing that about myself, I feel like I can recognize it in other people and I can teach or pass things on. I think it's just, for me at this point in my life, is about making myself better so I can leave this world better than how I found it. Whatever it is I do, I don't know what it is. I don't know how big it is. I don't know how small it is. I just want to leave this world better than how I found it. I want to give more than I take. That's what my writing does for me. It's me giving a piece of myself to the world. It's me being honest about how I feel and why I feel and what I think. You know what I'm saying? Without being ashamed, without being scared. You know what I'm saying? And in a lot of ways, my characters is a way for me to put a face behind these things. So, I don't know.
Well, a couple of things. A lot was there. But I guess I'll start with the first question I had. Or what are these experiences that you have in your life in detail? Like, give me an example. Like, in your current project, what kind of stories are you drawing from in your life?
So, the project I'm working on right now, it's about a black power couple. And this is actually very personal. My writing partner just found out about why I wanted to go this direction. It's about black guy, I call him young, around my age, a little older. He's running a bank, basically. He's bringing his bank public. His grandfather pulled the family out of hard times, bootlegging, right after the Great Depression. His father went into business, expanded the empire. He's, expounded upon that. He's now fallen in love with a woman who is sexually promiscuous and is also a victim of sexual crimes. I've had a few members of my family that have been victims to sexual abuse. And one of the biggest things that bothered me was that's something my family didn't talk about. And I think that's one of the worst things we can do as people, especially black people, when our people are hurt, especially at a young age, where they'll carry that pain through life. We never address it. We let it build up to a point where it fractures the individual and they're no longer good to themselves, let alone society in general. You know what I'm saying? And the gentleman, the reason why, I'll stay on the woman for a second, the reason why she's sexually promiscuous, coming up, I have a family that has a lot of strong women. Granted, the men in my family are men, but I have a lot of strong women in my family. And I always had a problem with the fact that people accepted men being sexually promiscuous, but not accepting women in the same manner. And then one day it hit me. I'm sitting there like, well, if we're telling these guys they need to go out and have sex with as many women as possible so they can learn how to have sex, who are we asking them to have sex with? We're not asking them to have, and, at this time, because I'm coming up in the 90s, we're not asking them to have sex with other men. You know what I'm saying? We're not asking them to have sex with people younger than them or ridiculously older than them. So they need to find women to experiment with. Well, we're not telling these women to do the same thing. So these women that we are encouraging these men to find, what do we think about them? You know what I'm saying? How are we viewing them? So are you telling me every man I tell he needs to know how to perform in bed to please his wife, he has to go find a woman? Okay, well, he's been through 4 or 5 women. Now, what do I say about these women? Are they hoes? You know what I'm saying? Are they less than? And that was a big deal for me. She had to be in charge of her own body, especially based on what I placed on paper the character had been through. And I think it's more important now than ever for women, black women per se, because we still have this Me Too conversation, but honestly, the Me Too conversation has nothing to do with us, realistically. It was the same thing with the feminist movement. You know what I'm saying? And I say all that, you know, I can say my mom's a feminist. My mom, from the day I was born, I watched my mom work 2 and 3 jobs to provide. I watched my grandmother do the same thing once my grandfather died to maintain. We have a constant tradition and history of black women suffering in silence. And based on what I saw and how I feel about life and my people, and I just feel like she has to own that part of herself. She has to stand in front of the whole world, which is television, her platform, and say, hey, this is my body, I own it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what was so important. As far as the gentleman, his name is actually King. And that was important because as black men, we don't see ourselves as leaders or figures of dominance or owners of our community. We only see ourselves as workers or employees through the transparency of the system. And as the system is like stretched cellophane. You know, you can tell that this wall is blue on the other side, but you really can't see too clearly. You just know something else is on the other side. You have no idea how you're going to get to it. And I feel like by me putting this guy as a black man in a leadership role with power on a stage that reaps power, because money in this world is power. You know what I'm saying? Now you have a black man that in a lot of ways owns his world because he runs a bank. And now you have a black woman who owns herself. So automatically you have these two individuals meeting and they're already dominant characters. It's like an unstoppable force meeting a movable object. You know what I'm saying? Either everything is going to blow up or, hey, you have an impenetrable wall and they stand the test of time. And that's an example of how I process things, my experiences, and my writing. You know, I just think about what I saw growing up, the people who raised me, the lessons they taught me. I have an uncle, he's a pastor. He travels to Africa all the time. One of the biggest things I took from one of his journeys back, he said, you want to see a defeated culture? I'll show you a group whose women are abused and mistreated by another culture. And that's black women in America. You know what I'm saying? When I talk to people, I have to use my words and my topics wisely because I don't want to come off as militant, but I do want to come off as an aware individual who understands that this world is bigger than me and you. You know what I'm saying? Somebody laid the foreground for us to get here, and we have to carry on so the people that come behind us can pick up the ball and run. And it really doesn't matter what your gender is, your sexual orientation, or your race. Right now, because of the society we live in, we have to build ourselves up as a community before we can even try and think about integrating ourselves with the rest of the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's my right. Like, you got Kenya Barris, who has Blackish out there. You know what I'm saying? It's different experiences because America's an experience. And I'm thinking about how I'm learning stuff in life at my age. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't raised by my father, but I had uncles around. You know what I'm saying? And I learned things that were good, that I wanted to emulate. I saw things that I didn't want to emulate. So for me, like I said, I'm basically working for all of, not just black boys and girls, but all the little kids out there who wants a platform like this, but never really experienced it. You know what I'm saying? So, did that answer the first question?
That answered the question. I would like to talk about after college. What was the process? I'm assuming that you didn't get all those accolades, collegiate accolades at once. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah. I believe everybody has a genius within their own right, meaning that if you can open your eyes and you can formulate a sentence or you can coherently do anything, you have genius in you. I think genius speaks through people. I don't think I'm walking around as a genius, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like it's an energy. It exists. You know what I'm saying? If you're around goodness for so long, at some point you gotta pick up on goodness. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You can't be in a room full of food and not pick anything up to eat. So when I was in college, part of what saved me was I left high school and joined the military. My goal was I wanted to go to UNC. I always wanted to go to UNC. I lost the application like 2 weeks before it was due. So I applied to UNC when I found it, which it was late. Still got in, but I couldn't get financial aid because it was late. And I got into UNO. Didn't want to go to UNO. Thinking, no, UNO is not a good school. Foolish me, UNO is a great school. But I decided to join the military. I joined the military, thought I wanted to make a career of it. Didn't like the politics. I realized that I wasn't a man built for politics, and I wasn't a person to live in a box. The only rules and regulations that I needed were rules and regulations that allowed me to live a peaceful life. And military, guns, and war wasn't for me. As good as I was, it just wasn't for me.
What do you mean by politics? Like the politics, like person to person, or how you're being used for political motives?
Both. You will learn. There are quotas that have to be met for certain positions. Quotas, racial, gender, geographic. I missed out on some promotions because I was extremely vocal about how I felt. I've had a problem throughout my life biting my tongue. When I was in the military, Ronald Reagan died, and my commanding officer expressed how great of a president Ronald Reagan was, and I politely expressed how he set the African American community back about 50 years, and I actually got in a lot of trouble for that. But that was me, you know what I'm saying? And that was the courage I had to speak in an arena that wasn't built for me, around people who maybe didn't have the same amount of courage. You know, I'm a funny person. I use language. You'll hear me walk around and say nigga 37 times. I'm not a person, first off, a lot of people don't know the origin of the word. Secondly, I know what I am. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you watch, you ever seen Sticks and Stones with Dave Chappelle? Yeah. Same thing, you know what I'm saying? I know what I am. So, first off, somebody outside of my culture is not going to make me feel guilty for expressing things the way I want to express them. You can't racially shame me. You can't, you know what I'm saying? And we're not going to, when I say certain things, we're not going to worry about making you feel comfortable, you know what I'm saying, for something or a situation historically that another power block created. You know what I'm saying? But when I was in school, I would go through these spells where I had to have fulfillment. I needed to feel like I was doing something meaningful. And like I said, I got bored in psychology, so I let it fall by the wayside. And English was something I never dove into it from a technical standpoint. I dealt with it from a recreational standpoint, but never a technical standpoint. And when I started to understand when I started to understand just how sophisticated some of these verses that a lot of these rappers were putting together based on the construction of like English, like the whole concept of paradiddles and alliteration and stuff like that, like, man, that's PhD level stuff. You know what I'm saying? You have people that spend 30 to 40 years of their life trying to understand how a person thinks in that rhyme pattern. You know what I'm saying? William Shakespeare, I crack jokes all the time. That's your first international MC of all times. William Shakespeare was the man. William Shakespeare was writing poems about his wife going to get syphilis because she knew he was cheating with his page. He was sleeping with his page when he would take him out, and his wife was jealous. So she went out to sleep with different men so she could contract syphilis and give it to him. He actually writes about that. He was so much of a historian that he wrote in one of his poems, "Here those dies of Caesar," meaning that these are Caesar. Julius Caesar loved dope. He loved deer. So what he would do is, in certain parts of his palace, he would mark the deer, and anybody who killed those deer had to answer to him. In other words, you knew not to touch those deer because they belonged to Caesar. And that's how he felt about the world and his work. You know what I'm saying? It was just that precious. And I'm telling you, if I wouldn't have went to the university I went to, and I wouldn't have taken up this subject, I never would have really understood how deep, you know, and how important that this white man from England who trash that rewrote the Bible and wrote his name in it. You know what I'm saying? How important and influential he was. And me growing up, I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic. I don't practice it anymore for, of course, personal reasons. If you can tell, I'm a history buff as well. A tidbit for you. You're familiar with Lord and Christ?
No.
So Lord and Christ were two ships that the Catholic Church sponsored during the slave trade. So the Catholic Church was actually the first official sponsor of the slave trade. So when you think of the Catholic Church, now I want you to think of Gillette. But
also another tidbit about the Catholic Church. The Pope himself co-signed was all right with Hitler, endorsed fascism.
Yep. So I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll give you Hitler. Everybody, and you can see I'm a history buff. A lot of people talk Hitler. By right, Hitler was a Jew. A lot of people don't. Hitler's mother was Jewish. In the Jewish community, your right to being a Jew is based on the birth line of your mother. So a Jew was killing Jews, and nobody knew. You see what I'm saying? So when I was in college, I started getting into all of these different things. And every time I got exposed to something, I'm like, man, I don't want to waste my time for no reason. So I just picked up a minor. I just picked up a major. And when I got into film, I didn't realize, I thought movies until I got to college were just movies with messages. I didn't understand the intent of a lot of these filmmakers. And in hindsight, when I go back and look, a lot of these West Side Story, that's just Romeo and Juliet retold. You know what I'm saying? A lot of this stuff is just retold over and over again so we can present something to an audience. And that's what my college experience was. The black professors I met at this white institution, they presented things to me on a platform that I understood. The white intellectuals that were not familiar with my background, they understood my talent. So they presented things to me in a way that I could understand. And if they didn't do it, or if they couldn't do it, they would send me in a direction because they knew I had the ability to decipher what they presented to me. And that was the motivation for all of these different majors. You know, finance, I've always been interested in money. I just always want to know how money works. And that's how I kind of jumped into that. But the English, man, like I said, I learned how to tie my shoes. My aunt, my mom bought me ABC shoestrings. I'll never forget. I had a teddy bear, a little bit lighter than it's probably that color. Had some blue shoes, some blue Keds I couldn't fit. We put them on a teddy bear. And as I tied the teddy bear shoes, learned how to tie it, I would go through all of the ABCs as I saw them on the string. And that was just my first passion for words and reading. When I struggled with math, one of my teachers said, do you realize that mathematics and English walk hand in hand? He said, all you do, I give you an equation. You say 45 minus 10 equals what? I don't know. She wrote 45 minus 10. It was just that simple. I didn't realize, and that was another form of communication, I didn't realize how many ways we communicated the same information. And that's what it is, man. That's really what it is. It's all about how I need to find a way to pass information on to you to keep you from falling down that rabbit hole. And that's what I see my now. If you can, and this is where I'm at fault. If you're smart enough to figure out what I done put down here, you deserve to come out of that rabbit hole. If you're not, we need to retool what we're doing. But I need to, I don't want to say I need to retool what I'm doing, but now I have to expand my work so it reaches more people on a level in which they understand.
All right. Another question though. So after college, what do you do immediately after that?
What did I do after college? I went to grad school. For tourism. I wanted to. I was going to work. A friend of mine wanted to go to Disney World. I had never been. Every time I was supposed to go, I'd always been sick. So we took a trip, and I had so much fun. I said, man, I want to work for Disney World. So I went to grad school to study tourism and finance at UNO, the graduate program. Got an internship in a Disney program. Got my program extended. Got promoted on the internship. and was having a blast. My mom got sick and I came home, and I threw grad school aside, and I started really looking at the business aspect of Disney. And when I broke it down, Disney's core, the theme park is an afterthought. Everything that Disney deals with is entertainment from the smallest, and it's about good storytelling. And storytelling is probably one of the oldest ways we've sent information down the lines, word of mouth, all that kind of stuff. When it came to Disney, what I found out about Walt Disney was a lot of those characters he created were not characters he created. He just happened to own them. And I'm like, I could do what he did. You know what I'm saying? And that's and I shifted my stance and my mindset. I'm like, people say they go to college for these things. Well, I went to college for something that I really love. I'm good at it, and it's still relevant. I'm going to take advantage of it. So I started a technical writing company. I read manuals, rewrote manuals. I created efficiency plans based on government policies for certain types of industries in certain companies. Like, for instance, there was a healthcare agency I worked for. When the Affordable Healthcare Act changed, Medicaid and Medicare, the plans, the laws basically changed. So I had to sit down, learn the new laws and a new policy, and then rewrite company policy for this organization that was coherent or cohesive to what Medicare had required. That was taxing, because as much as I enjoyed reading and writing, I hated it because it was too technical. I needed to be creative. I needed to be able to pull my ideas out of the sky and make them conform to what I needed them to conform to. And I still wasn't motivated because I still didn't have the confidence in my writing like I should have. So I put that aside. I got married. I got a real job. I had a family to support. I worked at Enterprise, sales. I hated lying to people. You know what I'm saying? I figured if I wanted to lie to people, I could write stories and lie to people. You know what I'm saying? It was just, no matter how much I tried to avoid what I loved, it ran me back to it. And it got to a point where I was so frustrated with the monotony of my everyday life that the only peace I could get was writing. And I started back small. I started writing small poems. Stuff like Black Boy Dream. I worked in a school system. There was a lot of underprivileged kids. I wrote an essay article for everybody to read on the first day. Take advantage and control of your destiny. You know what I'm saying? Your future is yours. You command it. You steer that ship. And that's not, man, it's so all over the place. It's not even about what I did when I got out of college. It's what I experienced and the fact that I got all of the support without realizing I was getting all the support from people around me. This world is a funny place. We tell each other good morning, but we really don't listen to what we're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, good morning. What does that mean? Is the morning good? You don't know what the hell my morning is. Are you saying you want me to have a good morning? And I had to find myself after college. I had to, I wasn't the typical New Orleans dude, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have tats everywhere, you know what I'm saying? I didn't walk around pants sagging. I didn't carry the dialect, you know what I'm saying? But I had the intellect, I had the street knowledge, I had the friends, you know what I'm saying? I had the awareness. And I felt like an outsider when I didn't have to. And a real good friend of mine who I've been knowing since I was 2 years old, he's like, nah, man, you the dude that's gonna carry us through. He said, we need people like you. He said, and it hit me. I'm getting to that point in my life where everything that I experienced outside of college, I went through because there was no one there to help me navigate. You know what I'm saying? I had to go through the thick of things, go through the weeds. And I think that's the most important thing about my story for me that I would like people to get from coming out of my adolescence and my transition into manhood. You know what I'm saying? No matter how hard it was, no matter how unorthodox my path was, no matter how uncertain it was, there was always a level of support, even though I didn't recognize it. And there was always something special about me, the individual, that would magnify itself as long as I pushed forward. I just had to listen to the world around me. And when I say the world, I'm talking about TV, you know what I'm saying? Just the environment around you, you know what I'm saying? You got a good core group of people, you know what I'm saying? Your parents know you, your friends know you. If they're real to that point, you know what I'm saying? My life hasn't been about the things I've done once I've departed from one place to another. It's really been about the people I've come in contact with throughout those journeys. They have been the body of my outline, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? They say you get a birth date and you get a death date. You know what I'm saying? All that other stuff in the middle is important, to me at least. You know what I'm saying? I might not have any dates in between my first and my last, but something I said or something I may have done might create 25 dates in between for you. And that means the world to me, because coming up, I didn't see a lot of people creating those outlines for me. You know what I'm saying? And I think when you ask that question, I think I can give you the whole story. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you, Katrina came. I had to leave school. I enrolled in North Carolina State. I had to actually earn my keep, so I had to actually produce. I had to make good grades to stay in these people's institution. They wasn't giving me a free ride because of a hurricane. They said, we're gonna let you in here because you were going to school, but you gotta prove to us, this is an elite university. You have to prove to us that you belong here. You know what I'm saying? These were the things that were presented to me. And I had a roommate from Trinidad whose parents were still married, but his father moved to Delaware to make more money so he can provide and send his kids to better schools. You know, like I'm watching these people make these sacrifices, and instead of me looking at the world around me saying, man, because I'm black, I can't do this. Because my first day at NC State, guy in a big old 4x4, nigga, I wasn't offended by it. My partner's been calling as my nigga, you know what I'm saying? You don't even know me. Like, this is a mentality I had. But at the same time, I was realizing that I was 22, 23, 24 years old at this institution, and I had 17, 18, 19-year-old black kids actually looking up to me for advice. You know what I'm saying? I was a RA, and I didn't realize this. Being 2-3 years older in a society as a black man with any kind of motivation, any kind of prowess, any type of personal integrity, people look to you for things, whether you realize it or not, whether they want you to give them advice, whether they want to see how you handle yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're always on display. And that was big for me. And I'm like, wow, okay, people say I communicate well. People say I'm interesting. What can I put out there? You know what I'm saying? What can I do to send a message to a group of people that won't stop within the intercourse of two people? You know what I'm saying? And that's just where my writing took me. I don't know. I took you all over the gamut with it. I'm gonna take you everywhere with it, man.
Let's see how long it's been going. All right, 45. We'll do it for another 15 if you want to. Let's see. Oh. So I wanted to ask you more about your support structure when you're before college, just throughout your life, how that's changed and made you who you are.
It's my support structure has truly made me everything I am. Coming up, and I said earlier, I spoke about my father. I am not shy about the subject. My father didn't want to be a father when I was born, so he left. Since then, we have a very good relationship. But my mother did everything in her power. I had two families, and what I mean by I had a family that sided with my father in the sense that, well, if you don't want to deal with him, we're not going to deal with him. Then I had a family in the sense that said, doesn't matter, he's still ours, so we got to take care of him. And right then and there, I knew, I don't know how I figured it out. I don't know if I heard it so many times and it just stuck, but doing what was right mattered. And at that point, I realized that at a young age, I had people in my family that were willing to go to blows with their family to do what was right. And that was the first case of conviction and empathy I ever saw coupled, because it takes a special person on both ends, and I don't mean special in a good way or a bad way, just a special person to disregard a child, an innocent human being, and it takes a special person to take up that mantle when it's not necessarily theirs to take up. You know what I'm saying? And I went to school early. I wasn't supposed to go to because my birthday fell late in the year. The teacher thought I was smart, and she knew my mom was a hard-working mother, saw her in church every Sunday. They let me come into the school a year early. When I got to high school, I was going to St. Aug. My mama couldn't afford it. The principal stayed right up the street. He saw my mom struggling. They put me on work study. Like, what I learned in life was, as long as you were making an effort and trying to do, because we don't always do the right thing. We're going to say stuff. Nobody's perfect, and we're not always going to make the best decisions. But people know good individuals. And I think in the best of us, there's bad, and in the worst of us, there's some form of good. And I think that light is always shining. So for me, I got to see that at a young age. You know what I'm saying? I got to see a grandmother that constantly reminded me that I was loved. I got to see a mother that went to work battered or bruised, showing me that, look, this is my job and I'm doing this for you. I was around teachers who told me, you know, just because you think this is hard, the rest of the world is not going to accept that from you. You have to man up. You know what I'm saying? That was the support system I needed. I have a boss to this day. When I get stressed out, reminds me, you're a black man. You're going to deal with stresses and things in this world regardless. That's support, because he reminds me, that's his way, and that's how I receive it. That's his way of telling me, man, I've been there, I got you. Just keep pushing. Look at me. And that's how I feel. If I'm going to tell you I'm going to keep pushing, I got to show you change. I got to show you advancement. You know what I'm saying? I have to propel myself, and in the process, gravitate, bring people up with me. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think about when I think about my support system. I think about my uncle who taught me how to drive, who had his own 4 children, who he taught how to drive. You know what I'm saying? I became his 5th child. I had an aunt who, when she had a husband who felt that you had to be part of a perfect family, a mother, father, things like that, I had an aunt that says, hell no, it don't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. This is my nephew. He needs to be here. He needs to see love. If you don't feel like that, you can get the hell out. You know what I'm saying? These were things I saw at a young age, and it touched me. And to this day, that's why I said I don't want to, for me more than anything, I want to leave this place better than I found it. But at the same time, in the process, I don't want to, I think I might get this tattoo. You don't have to lose in order for me to win. And that is one of my mantras as well. That is a slogan I believe in dearly. We can all win. We can all win. There's enough money, there's enough land, there's enough food, there's enough happiness for everybody. We just got to live by the golden rule. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I think that's how I view my supports. That's why I feel like they made me everything I am. I just saw a whole lot of people do things. I mean, my principal, he had 2 kids that went to school. From my sophomore year of high school till the day I graduated, he picked me up and brought me to school every single morning, just so I wouldn't be late. He told my mom, she said, you making a sacrifice to pay this tuition. You know what I'm saying? The fiduciary responsibility. You're taking that on. Now, I'm a take on the communal responsibility and make sure that he sees the sacrifices that we're all making for him, so he appreciates it. And to this day, I've not forgotten those things. You know what I'm saying? It touches me, because this is another man in my life who had no blood ties, none whatsoever. But out of the sheer goodness of his heart, made a sacrifice for 3 years of his life to make sure, basically he was responsible for me like a father for 3 years of his life. That's a lot, man. That is a lot to take on. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're a man in this world dealing with all the other stresses that come with it. You taking on somebody else's responsibility.